So this is the new 2025 iPad, and it's got a feature that used to be just for the Pro iPhones, the A16 Bionic chip. Apple is selling this thing for just $349, which on paper seems like a fantastic deal. We know Apple doesn't just give away features for free. Hitting a price this low always means there are compromises, and with this iPad, they aren't immediately obvious just by looking at it. The spec sheet seems amazing, but the real story is how it actually feels to use it every day. I've spent the last week with this tablet, pushing it as hard as I could. We're going to find out exactly where Apple cut corners and whether this is the new tablet that everyone should be buying. We'll look at the design, the display, and really put that A16 chip to the test with gaming and multitasking. We'll also check out the cameras and see just how long that battery lasts. By the end of this, you'll know if this is the right iPad for you or if you should spend your money somewhere else. The good news, design and display. First up, let's talk about the design. It feels familiar, but in a good way. Apple's sticking with that all-screen, flat-edge look from the 10th generation, which I think is a great call. It feels way more premium than a $349 device has any right to. It's thin, it's light at about a pound, and the bright color options give it some personality that the older iPads just didn't have. The build quality is solid, exactly what you'd expect from Apple, and Touch ID in the top button is still a super fast and easy way to unlock the device or use Apple Pay. Now for the screen. It's an 11-inch liquid retina display, which looks to be the same panel as the last model. For watching stuff, it's great. The resolution is sharp, with plenty of pixels per inch, so everything looks crisp. It gets up to 500 nits of brightness, which is perfectly fine for using indoors, and it's even usable in a bright room. And it has True Tone, which adjusts the screen's color temperature to the light around you, making it a bit easier on the eyes. For watching YouTube, browsing online, or streaming a movie, this screen gives you a sharp, colorful picture that's tough to complain about at this price. It's a great window into your content, but as we'll get to later, it's a window with some pretty big catches. Okay, let's get to the single biggest reason you might buy the same chip that powered the iPhone 14 Pro models. This isn't just a small bump, it's a huge jump in power for Apple's cheapest iPad. That chip has a 6-core CPU and a 5-core GPU, but what really matters is what that means for the real world. Everything just feels incredibly snappy. The performance boost, which some benchmarks suggest is a significant leap from the previous generation, makes a real difference in how responsive the iPad feels. Apps open right away. Websites load without stuttering. The whole experience with the latest version of iPadOS just feels incredibly smooth. But it's not just the chip. Apple also finally bumped the RAM up from 4GB to 6GB, and that is a game changer for multitasking. You can finally keep more apps and browser tabs open in the background without them constantly having to reload. It makes for a much less frustrating experience when you're jumping between your notes, a website, and a message. And then there's gaming. The A16's GPU is more than capable enough to handle modern, graphically demanding games with no problem. When you pair all that power with the new 128GB of base storage, a very welcome and long overdue upgrade, you have a device that's not just for watching videos, but for real, high-performance gaming and even some light creative work. If you're finding this breakdown helpful in deciding what to buy, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I try to go into this level of detail on all the latest tech to help you make smarter choices. Battery life and the ecosystem. All that performance doesn't mean a thing if the battery is dead by noon. Luckily, the battery life here is classic iPad. It's just plain excellent. Even with that much more powerful chip, Apple still rates it for all-day battery life. And in my testing, they're right. I was easily getting over 10 hours of screen on time with a mix of web browsing, streaming video, and making video calls. This is a tablet you can toss in your bag for a full day of work or a long flight and not have to worry about the battery. It also handles the power well, with no major heat problems or performance throttling that I could find. And of course, a huge piece of the puzzle here is iPadOS and the App Store. The software is mature and easy to use, and features like Stage Manager for multitasking actually feel usable now thanks to the A16 chip. But the real strength is the App Store, which is full of millions of high-quality apps made specifically for the iPad's big screen, something that Android tablets still can't quite match. That huge library of software is a powerful and often overlooked reason why even the cheapest iPad is such a great device. The catch: the display compromise. So the performance is amazing and the battery is great. Sounds perfect, right? Well, now we have to talk about the catch, the compromises. And the biggest one starts right back with that display. While it's sharp and colorful, it's still a 60Hz panel. That means the screen refreshes 60 times a second. It's fine, but if you've used a phone or tablet with a smoother 120Hz ProMotion display, you're going to notice that scrolling just isn't as fluid. But for a lot of people, the bigger problem is that this is a non-laminated display. Let me explain what that means. On the more expensive iPads, the top glass and the display underneath are fused together. On this iPad, there's a tiny air gap you can see between the glass and the screen. For watching videos, you'll probably never notice it, but the second you take out an Apple Pencil to write or draw, it's obvious. This one compromise is what really separates the budget iPad from the more expensive iPad Air and Pro. Moving on to the next compromise, and that's the whole accessory situation. This iPad works with the Magic Keyboard Folio, which is a great keyboard and trackpad that turns the iPad into a pretty decent little laptop. The problem, again, is the Apple Pencil. This iPad only supports the old first generation Apple Pencil and the newer Apple Pencil USB-C. What that means is you don't get any of the convenient features from the Apple Pencil 2 or the Pencil Pro. There's no easy magnetic charging. You have to plug it in. And if you go with the USB-C model, you don't get pressure sensitivity, which is a huge deal for drawing. It's a confusing and fragmented lineup that really feels like it's designed to push anyone creative toward the more expensive iPads. So yes, you can use a pencil for basic notes, but it's a compromised experience. And for 2025, there's a new compromise to think about: the camera and charging. Last up, let's quickly hit the cameras and charging. The camera system is pretty much unchanged from the 10th generation model. You get a 12 megapixel wide camera on the back that's fine. It can shoot decent 4K video and is good enough for scanning a document or taking a quick photo in good lighting, but it's not replacing your phone's camera. The front-facing camera is actually more useful. It's a 12 megapixel ultra wide that's on the landscape edge, the correct spot for a tablet. It supports center stage, which automatically follows you around during video calls. And for FaceTime or Zoom, it works great. The last little pain point is charging. While it thankfully has a USB-C port, the charging speed is slow. It doesn't come with a powerful charger in the box, and filling up that big battery can take a few hours. In a world where everything has fast charging, waiting that long just feels old. The verdict: who is this for? So after all that, who should actually buy the 2025 A16 iPad? It really all comes down to one question: can you live with the compromises? The perfect person for this iPad is pretty clear. It's for students who need a powerful machine for research, typing up papers, and some light note-taking, but are on a tight budget. It's for a family that wants a shared device for movies, games, and video calls. It's for anyone who just wants a great secondary screen for browsing the web. For all those people, this iPad is an incredible value. The A16 chip gives it so much power that it's going to feel fast for years. And the 128 gigabytes of storage makes it a practical device you won't outgrow immediately. Now, who should upgrade? If you have a 9th generation iPad or older with the old home button design and a lightning port, this is a massive night and day upgrade. The performance, the modern design, and the USB-C port make it an easy recommendation. If you already have the 10th generation iPad, it's a tougher call. The A16 and extra RAM are a nice performance boost, but unless your current iPad feels slow, it's probably not a jump you need to make right now. And finally, who should probably skip this one? If you're a creative professional, a digital artist, or even just someone who takes a ton of handwritten notes, you should really think twice. That non-laminated display is probably going to drive you crazy. For you, spending the extra money on an iPad Air for its laminated screen and better pencil support is almost definitely worth it. And if you're someone who has to have the latest software features and you want to use Apple Intelligence, you're going to have to look at the more expensive iPads in Apple's lineup. Conclusion: the 2025 11th generation iPad is a very interesting product. It gives you truly pro-level performance in a budget-friendly package. The power of that A16 chip at a $349 price point is a huge deal, and it really changes what we should expect from an entry-level tablet. It's fast, the battery is great, and it has the best app ecosystem you can get on a tablet. But that power comes with very specific, deliberate trade-offs. The 60Hz non-laminated display, the messy pencil support, and the lack of Apple Intelligence aren't mistakes. They are calculated limitations to protect the sales of the more expensive iPad Air and Pro models. For a lot of people though, those limitations just won't matter. They want a simple, reliable, and really fast tablet for everyday stuff. And for that, this iPad isn't just a good deal, it's the new default. It is, without a doubt, the best tablet for most people. Thanks for watching. If this review helped you out, a subscription to the channel would be great. I'll see you in the next one.